Hey, we're live. And you know what that means, Max? We're on time.
Hey!
Director Jordan's all like, hey, we're not going to get live on time. And I'm like, Jordan, I trust you. I believe in you, Jordan. I believe in your abilities. And I think I coached him into it.
I was going to say, and new age coaching style.
New age coaching style. We have a lot to talk about tonight.
Yeah, a lot to unpack.
So for those of you who were watching our Saturday hockey show that we just started up a couple weeks ago, we had a blast, absolute blast. Thanks to everybody for tuning into that.
Yeah.
My Friday check-in last week was great. We had a great conversation with some really good, a lot of our viewers and our fans. So thank you for that. And we're here tonight with a ton to talk about because a lot has been going on. Max, first off, how you doing?
Fantastic. It's Fing, as we're known in Saskatchewan.
Fake spring. Yeah.
As everybody saw, a nice little
Second winter.
Second winter, yeah.
Yep.
So Sinter, Fing, whatever you want to call it. Outside of the weather, though, I'm fantastic. And Roman Yossi's out for 2 weeks, so fantastic.
I don't know if you know this, Max, but I'm really famous on TikTok now. And I made a video today of yesterday at 4 o'clock and today at 10 a.m.
I did see that one.
And yesterday was like nice. The snow was melted. Everything was gone. It was kind of slushy. But most of it was gone. Today was just blizzarding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome to Saskatchewan.
I saw it. I didn't like it. I don't want your head getting too big. You know?
Oh, well, I've got to get famous. It's for the SquadCast.
It's for the SquadCast?
This is all.
Okay,
this isn't a personal gain thing. I'm not looking to get personally famous. It's all for us. It's all for the show.
Because that's what all the TikTok stars do it for, right? Yep, that's right. So anyways, you heard it here first. Follow at Producer Clark on TikTok.
Yeah, Producer Clark on TikTok. Make sure you follow me because I'm trying to get big. I'm trying to get big, guys.
And subscribe and review our podcast as well. That'd be great.
Sure. I mean, while you're at it. But hey, we haven't introduced ourselves yet. So hey, this is the SquadCast. We are in the basement of the Rod Peterson Show bunker here at the IKS Media Studios. I'm Producer Clark, I produce the Rod Peterson Show, and I host this wonderful show with everybody that's tuning in. My buddy Mad Max is over to my right, Max Ritz.
What's up?
You are the squad. We already see our squad chiming in the comments section. I see lots of people chiming in tonight. Jamie Anstey's checking in from Halifax. My father and mother are watching, and he just has to point out that you're kicking my ass in squad select again.
I certainly am.
Max, what'd you go 4-1 this weekend?
Just casual 8-2. And just to address Jamie Anstey's comment, that's what it was. Jamie, I'm sorry. I was a little bit tired. Had some things to attend to. It was a busy day kicking Clark's ass in squad select. So I apologize, but I promise you this. If the Leafs lose, I will be available for a post-game chat because I just like to, on their parades.
For reference, Jamie invited us to his podcast, the Offside Hockey Podcast, after the Leafs game on Saturday night. Invited both myself and Max never showed up. So I took over.
I wholeheartedly apologize.
In fairness, I probably talked enough for both of us.
Fantastic.
So you're welcome. I took over for you.
Good stuff. Did they lose to the Canucks that night?
We don't have to talk about that.
Okay.
No.
Sorry,
Clark on the Leafs didn't win the Vigor fan vote, so we're not going to talk about that. But hey, again, we are presented by our friends at Rockstar Supply Chain Solutions. Rockstar Supply Chains. Oh yeah, Max is wearing the hoodie over there.
One of the nicest hoodies in the game.
Roxanne is the good-looking one on the left. Darnell is the
average-looking one on the right.
The average one on the right. They're both beautiful people, Max. They're both beautiful people. And
as we talked about with you and our guest tonight, there's some discrepancies in the looks department.
We're already getting into that? Oh, boy. We'll get into that in a sec as to what we're talking about. But, hey, don't rack your brain figuring out what you need to get for your business and how to make your business operate smoothly. Rockstar will handle it all for you. Get you business supplies, get your office needs, everything you need to make sure your business is operating at tip-top performance. Give them a call or visit rockstar.com. Or is it CA? I always get it mixed up. I voiced the commercial.
It's one of the two.
Rockstar.com. If you want to make sure, stay tuned for our commercial break. It'll be in there.
It will be in there, expediting. Whoa.
But, hey, as always, ask us anything throughout the night, and you can make sure, there it is. Look at that beautiful man, Hulk Hogan, wearing our shirt that we gave him.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that nice of him to do that for us?
Some fantastic work by Mr. Hogan.
So send in your comments now all night long, and we will get to them throughout the show.
Did you pay him this month?
Shoot, I forgot to pay Hulk Hogan. Oh, boy, we might be in trouble.
We might be having a new host.
We might have to hire our second guest tonight, Brandon Rodmaker, to be our security guard.
That can help.
But hey, you're watching on YouTube, you're watching on Facebook. We have Twitter live as well. So anywhere you're watching, make sure you send us a tweet, send us a comment, send us whatever you want. Did my dad just say he's going to adopt you?
Mr. Munroe, I humbly accept the opportunity to join the Munroe family.
I don't know.
I really do. That's fantastic.
You know, we just had a great hangout, distanced hangout on Sunday, and I thought we were on good terms.
So what did you do between then and now that I'm getting the invite to take your spot in the fan?
I don't know. Well, I guess I'm bad at picking hockey games, and you're better. So I guess that's it. I didn't know that was all it took for my dad to disown me.
Mr. Munroe, I accept. Let's get the paperwork started.
That's harsh.
Harsh but fair.
That's harsh. Anyways, let's see what's on our. Break down the show, can you, Max? Please. I got a couple things I got to do.
Okay, sounds good. It's episode 23.
I got to call a few people. I'm feeling pretty rough right now.
Hey, you know what? Hey, let's go back to positive coaching. It's all going to be all right.
You're right.
Hey, we need you next shift.
Yeah.
Just get out there, do your thing. We need you.
Nailed it.
Anyways, it's episode 23, and we kick it off with Big Dak getting a mega extension back in Big D. Spring training is in full swing, and the Jays are looking good, we think. Except there's really not a whole lot of games to be seen. But they did figure that out earlier today with a nice little Facebook simulcast.
Did they figure it out? There's no audio to it.
There's no audio.
It's 3 cameras that are stationary, not moving, and that's all they.
But at least it's something, I guess.
I don't know. I guess it's better than nothing.
Either way. But Tom Wilson is back in the news, and not for good reasons, as he's back on the suspension list for the first time in a couple of seasons. Daryl Sutter is back, and he kicks things off with a bag skate. As Calgary aims to right the ship. And producer Clark is all over TikTok lately.
Yeah, I'm
Check
famous.
it out. It's real hip.
I'm famous, guys. You got to check it out. Yep. Katie Fleury, I'm going to ban you in the comments just because you're being very mean to me. Katie, I'm glad you're here because I saw a post earlier that she was getting off Facebook. So I'm glad she's breaking her own rule to tune in tonight.
Excellent. Good
Thank
stuff.
you.
We appreciate it,
Thank you, Katie. Thank you to everybody tuning in tonight. Let's get into the top of the order. We don't have a graphic for the top of the order, do we?
I'll work on it.
Let's get into the top of the order.
Yeah.
So first,
sponsored by.
Well, tonight's going to be Flame Tech Combustion Services.
Excellent.
We do have a sponsor for it.
Oh yeah, we do.
We do.
Whoops.
But we can.
Jordan, can we cut that?
Maybe make it 2 sponsors. I don't know. However. Dak Prescott's going to be first up on the list, of course.
Yeah.
We just talked about it. Signs a 4-year, $160 million. There it is. $160 million contract to the boys, and $123 million of that is guaranteed, and I think he gets it all in the first 3 years of that deal. So, Max, we were talking just like three minutes ago before we went on air, and we were talking about how he might be the highest paid quarterback. Do you think, we talked about this earlier on the Rod Peterson show, but do you think the Cowboys can win with Dak Prescott as their quarterback?
You know what? See, this is where I'm at with this. Is Dak Prescott, did you see that injury last year, by the way? I watched that game live.
A little rough.
That was tough. So Jerry Jones must really like the way that Dak is rehabbing right now, because this is, to me, an insane move to make at this point of the offseason. At the end of the day, you're going to franchise tag him anyways, assumedly. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's a guy that's accomplished something for your franchise. Apparently you got money to spend. I don't know if they're going to like how the Ezekiel Elliott investment pays off. As far as the big name contracts go for running backs, I think Christian McCaffrey is probably one of the only ones worth it.
Here's the other thing, too, about the Cowboys. They went from having this absolutely dominant offensive line, and they've been injured lately. They've lost a couple of guys. Guys are getting older. They're not quite as good as they were. Let's just be straight. And they're now investing in all the guys that were good because they had a good offensive line. Right. The Dak Prescotts and Ezekiel Elliott's. Now, I don't think either of those guys are bad.
No.
But it's going to be very interesting to see if paying those guys now is going to pay off if once that O-line continues to deteriorate. Do they focus on that in free agency, draft, etc.?
Absolutely. For sure they do. I see them becoming, and again, I'm sorry to point it out, I'm just for the interest of observation, very similar to your Atlanta Falcons. They have a ton of talent at running back, ton of talent on the wide receiver flanks. They've got Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, who am I forgetting there? Michael Gallup. Like, they have tons of receivers. Dak's got weapons. Again, Ezekiel Elliott's probably going to be looking for a comeback season next year, as soon as next year.
Yeah, he needs to have one,
But a lot of talent around the ball, but if you can't get the ball out of your hands because you don't have enough time, like you said, you've got to insulate Dak with a little bit of protection here, and you're spending a lot of cap tied up in your running back and your quarterback. It's going to be tough to see what goes on for the Cowboys longer term. Short term, again, that injury was gruesome. I'm very interested to see how he comes back from that. And if I'm the Cowboys, to me, this just doesn't make a ton of sense right now.
We'll
Maybe
see.
in 3 months it makes sense.
Yeah.
just
see.
before the season kicks off. But I don't know. Right now,
it was either that
early.
or go with Andy Dalton again, or just, I don't know
But
what
again,
else.
though, you didn't have to. We're not even at the draft yet. You could have made this deal in April.
Yeah, you're right. Next segment, we got to keep rolling here because we don't want to get caught too much on things. Is spring training? We got to do a spring training update for the boys, the Jays, the Jays down south. Now we're gonna obviously do our Bluebird block. Say that 10 times.
I had a great time with the fellas, by the way.
Yeah, so I noticed this in this picture. I picked the picture, I put it in there, and then I looked in the background. Max, just move the mic away from your face for a sec. Max, zoom in. Max is the strength and conditioning coach for the Blue Jays.
Boys,
apparently.
don't zoom in too much. Whoa. Hold the zoom.
So I don't know who that is, but he's a Max doppelganger. So we might have to see if we can get a hold of that guy. Mac, remember where we said we wanted to make a movement? We got to figure out who that guy is. That's our movement.
Say In-N-Out is really good down in Florida. But anyways,
In-N-Out's a California thing, Max.
California.
Yeah, you're wrong side of the country.
They're national, are they not?
No, California. I mean, they might be Southwest states, but they're not all over the
Burger
place.
chain fact checker.
Maybe somebody can comment.
Long story short, that picture, either way, the fellas look good. George Springer, he did not partake in the same establishments that I did. The new spring training complex has a nice little dieting center or whatever it is that the fellas can indulge in all.
Hi, Rod Peterson,
foods.
by the way. He just waved. Sorry, I had to get that in there. I missed that on the wall, but we're good.
Yeah, anyways, so yeah, that's not a terribly flattering picture, but I'll accept what, just like Vladdy last year, just not coming into camp in great shape. That's on me, but I will figure this out.
I'm glad that we did the zoom in side by side.
Oh, that's tough. That's a tough look. Look at Gritchick. He just looks absolutely jacked. Kevin's looking good.
We might have to put this on Instagram. Jordan, can you screenshot that, please?
Yeah, that's tough. Anyways,
next topic of discussion. We'll get more into the Jays later. Yes. Don't worry about that. Next topic of discussion. The NBA All-Star Game happened. I don't know. We have a picture.
Did it?
It happened. Steph Curry won the three-point contest. Anthony Simons won the slam dunk contest. And who won the skills?
Who won the game?
LeBron's team won the game.
Okay.
Sabonis, right. A power forward center guy won the skills contest. I just still don't quite understand how that happened. 4 of the 6 competitors were power forwards or centers. Like, who made that plan? It's a skills contest. Get the point guards out there running around. It blew my mind. However, we don't need to talk too much about the NBA.
Okay, last point on it, though. The NBA and the NHL are kind of in this weird thing where they don't know what to do with their All-Star games. It's just something that's not there. It
needs to happen. I like them.
We'll see what the boys from Hoop Life think about the All-Star game.
We'll be talking to them
Maybe
soon.
we can rebuild the All-Star game with them.
You know what I did like? I will say this. The slam dunk competition was at halftime.
Okay.
I liked that.
That's interesting.
That was good.
Three guys in it this year, right?
Yeah, because they used to have a separate night for all the skill stuff, and then the All-Star game, make it all one night, perfect.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was on, to be quite honest with you. I was watching
next topic of discussion, the Tom Wilson hit. I have a small rant to go on, but it won't take too long. Let's put the Tom Wilson up there, fellas. Now, everyone's complaining that Tom Wilson's at it again. The old Tom Wilson doing stuff that he shouldn't be doing. However, I look at it differently, and we heard a great, you played it earlier for us, but John Scott, who was on the Rod Peterson show last week, by the way, he put out a good point. Like, Tom Wilson, he has a history, and his name probably got him suspended. But he didn't take a stride once he hit the face-off circle.
Yeah.
He was gliding in. He's a big guy. He lays big hits. He's a strong, powerful dude.
It's his identity as a player.
Brandon Carlo is the same size as him. He lowered his head. I can't do it with a microphone, but he lowered his head last minute and leaned his head into where Tom Wilson was hitting, which was his chest. And to me, I think it's hard. If you have to slow down a hit to extreme slow-mo to determine if it's dirty, to me it's not dirty anymore. And the game is too fast. It moves too fast. These guys are too big. Everybody now, except for Conor Garland. We'll talk about him later.
Yes.
But everybody's so big now. They're all so fast. They're all so strong. A hit that would have been called, that would have been a normal everyday hit in the early 2000s, and now it's conceded 7 game suspension. To me, Max, it's too far.
Yeah, and there's a lot to break down with this one. I really like your point about if you have to really slow it down to 1/100th of the speed that it was. Really, what are we assessing here, guys? I get that there's a Department of Player Safety for a reason. I understand that. But at the end of the day, if you're going to evaluate these hits, you got to do it in real time to a certain degree, right? And like you said, Tom Wilson does have a history. The Oscar Sundqvist hit from 2019, that was not good.
And I said this, our buddy Jamie Anstey, I will say this. I'm not saying Tom Wilson's an angel.
No.
He's not. He's had a history. However, just because he has a history Doesn't mean this hit is 7 games worthy. My opinion.
They broke it down. They didn't even evaluate it as a hit to the head. They literally took it. The NHL Department of Player Safety, we're evaluating this as a boarding hit.
Yeah.
Now, the precedent for boarding was set by, I believe, Zach Ronaldo in 2015 or 2016.
Sounds like a name.
8 games is what he got.
Okay.
Tom Wilson got 7 for this. I don't know. There's some just factors at play here. This doesn't wash with me. If this hit is an open ice, this is a great hockey hit. You can't play ifs and buts.
There was a hit like that just the other day that didn't get suspended. Exactly the same. Nathan McKinnon got hit to the head. Exactly the same. Not a peep.
Yeah.
If that was against the boards and it was Tom Wilson, 7 games. That's all
Probably
I'm saying.
more,
Next topic.
We'll break it down in segment 4 more.
Yeah, if you want to talk about it more, let us know. We'll talk about it later.
Absolutely.
We got to check in with some comments. My entire family is watching tonight.
Awesome.
My sister Taryn says Clark knows his burger chains. Thanks. I feel like that's a comment on my weight. Thanks, Taryn. My cousin Jamie is saying, "Hey, cuz, hey Jamie." My buddy Emery, he's not my family, however. He says, "Will we see Clark?"
He's just a camera guy, right?
Just a camera guy. One of 2, actually.
Nice.
Will we see Clark in the Dub Hub? Yes, on Friday and Saturday. I am your boss, Emery, so I get to call you a camera guy once again. It'll be fun. A couple other comments coming in, but we'll get to them all later. As we move on, the Jets and the Leafs are playing right now. I think the Leafs are still up 2-1. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Hyman has scored tonight and Austin Matthews.
Oh, you just happen to have that picture right up.
It's like I could see the future, Max.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
So the 2 of them have scored, and Andrew Kopp scored for the Jets, who I just dropped on Fantasy Hockey.
Good decision, hey?
It's still 2-1. Thank you, Alan.
You draft like you play squad select. Not well.
Thanks a lot, man.
Sorry.
I picked him up off of waivers and I cut him. I needed a roster spot. I got a guy coming back from injury. I had a guy coming back from injury. I had to.
Okay.
Coaching changes in Calgary, Montreal. We talked about it a little bit. Daryl Sutter has made his appearance in Calgary. 30 minutes.
Made it known.
Yeah, he's like, "Hey guys, by the way, I'm your head coach." 30 minutes into his first practice with the Flames, he bag skates them. So you know what? Instant culture change.
Again.
Now, we're going to get into this later because with our first guest, my brother Scott, we were talking about one of our things we want to talk about with him is how is coaching and player styles, mentality, etc., evolved since the early 2000s, because I feel like, and I said it, I went into a big rant on this on our Saturday hockey show on the SquadCast Facebook page, by the way. However, I feel like players evolved overnight.
Yeah.
The type of player, how you needed to kind of, well, we'll talk to Scott again, but how you kind of need to coddle the players and coach them all individually. But coaches were never given a chance to catch up. And we're seeing now all these old school coaches who are still coaching the way they would have coached in 2004. Daryl Sutter with the Flames, right? You're seeing
Went to a Stanley Cup. That's what everybody in Calgary loves about him.
The shock and awe that Daryl Sutter's coming back is not because he's an old washed-up coach. It's because he's this old school type that is getting pushed out every single year.
Yep.
And it's just to see him come back. I'm very curious to see how this works in Calgary and what kind of precedent it sets for guys like Mike Babcock and other guys like the John Tortorellas of the world.
Yep.
How is this going to affect guys like that in the next couple of years? Are they going to start bringing them back? Like, what are we going to see? So I'm very curious how that all changes.
Yeah, Scott will have some good thoughts on that, I'm sure.
Yeah. So my brother Scott, I think, did you mention it in the breakdown?
Possibly. He played the guest in the breakdown.
He played professional hockey for 10 years in 3 different countries. He played college hockey, and then he coached junior and NCAA hockey. So I feel like he has a pretty good vibe on how it all changed and when it changed, and we'll get into that later. The North Division in the NHL, we are very on top of that. The Leafs, again, are playing the Jets. The Jets slid a little bit, but they have 3 games in hand on the Oilers. So the Maple Leafs and Jets are in a 3-game series right now. It's a huge, huge series, as I mentioned a second ago. The Oilers are still hanging around in that top spot, but again, they've played more games than a lot of those teams. The Habs are still hanging on to that 4th spot, and they just crushed the Jets the other night.
Yep.
That coaching change seemed to have worked early on.
At least temporarily. They lost their first 2. Remember, Carey Price actually looks like Carey Price again, though, now, too. He wasn't in the net for that one, but in his last 2 games, he's only given up 1 goal each game.
But it's funny because they go from a coach like Claude Julien, who's probably in that old school type, you would think. I mean, maybe I'm stereotyping.
Stagnant systems, for sure.
And you go to Dominic Ducharme, who's more of this new wave of coaches, and that works. You go to Calgary, and we'll see what Daryl Sutter does.
Carey's also got a new goaltending director, too.
Right.
So.
Sean Burke, who I'm trying to get on the Rod Peterson show. Knock on wood. I don't have any I don't have it.
Somewhere.
Oh, table. The Canucks are just trying to put something together. The Flames, again, are trying to figure out their season.
Yeah.
And the Sens are just being pesky down at
They
the
are,
bottom.
man. Hey, I like the way they're playing. I like
The
it.
WHL
TSN
kicks
hasn't
off
changed
this
the
weekend.
graphic.
Sorry to cut you off, Max.
That's okay.
The WHL, you're used to it. The WHL kicks off this weekend. We finally get to see Connor Bedard play for the Pats. The other superstar prodigy is Braden Yeager, and he's playing for the Moose Jaw Warriors. And we got to see guys like Peyton Krebs is coming back. Braden Schneider's playing for the Wheat Kings. Caden Gooley's going to be playing for the Raiders. Yeah. And, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a very interesting 24
Absolutely.
games. As I said, our company, IKS, is doing some broadcasting, so I will be there for this weekend. And, Max, we talked about maybe doing some special work. They're locked down.
Yeah.
We were going to
That's
go
okay.
in.
It's worth an ask.
Me and Max wanted to go in and do some, behind-the-scenes stuff. We can't get in the doors. No. However,
We don't have the antibodies that Ovechkin has.
No, we're not. No, we're not from that cut. No. We're not from that cut.
Nope.
The people who check into my Friday check-ins, thank you, first of all. I see some of you guys are watching. Now, on Friday, I'm going to be at the WHL Hub City bubble, if you want to call it that.
You gonna have time for it?
Well, here's the deal. I'm going to be, the first game's at 4 o'clock, second game's at 8. There's like an hour break in between. I'm going to do my Friday check-in from the Hub City broadcasting station. So that's
You
what
just
I'm going
don't
to do.
shut down, do you?
No, I gotta still do it, but I can't do it at my normal time. So I'm gonna do it after the first game, so we'll get to talk about it and then hype up the next WHL game.
I like the effort, Clark.
So it's gonna
Make
be
sure
fun.
the execution's there.
It won't be as long, probably. It'll probably be about 20 minutes.
That's
but
all right.
Still gonna do it. So that's gonna do it for the top of the order, and that was brought to you by our friends at Flame Tech Combustion Services. Flame Tech strives to provide comfort for everyone in communities across Saskatchewan. Flame Tech is proud to support local businesses and initiatives throughout this great province. And while the world seems to be facing one challenge after another, our focus at Flame Tech has remained the same for 20 years. Visit flametech.ca for more information today. We're going into the Vigor fan vote. We're going to go through it real quick because I believe, Max, I forgot to check,
Don't
but
tell
I'm
me Clark
pretty
Unleashed
sure.
made a drastic comeback.
What happened?
Nothing.
I'm pretty sure the TSN Trade Board won again.
All right.
I put it up again on the vote. I'm on the wrong page.
Otherwise known
I'm
as the
struggling
Nashville
here, Max.
Predators sell-off.
I'm struggling here. Yeah, the Nashville Predators fire sale.
Yeah, it's about to happen.
So
It's about to happen.
I'm finding it. Give me a second here. We'll get it. I think. Did you delete it? No, we
I
got
didn't
it.
delete anything.
NHL Trade Board, they won. We got 41 votes on it. They got 56% of the vote. So we're going to talk about the Trade Board. Alan, can you bring up the Trade Board graphic, please, in the coordination with Jordan? I caught him. I knew it was going to happen.
stuff.
So this hasn't changed since last week. However, things around the league have changed, so we can talk about it a little bit. The Nashville Predators just announced today that Roman Josi is out for max, week to week?
1 to 2 weeks, yep.
So the fire sale is not officially. They haven't came out and said anything, but it's on. The fire sale's on. Now, you made a very interesting point, Max, and let's point this out. Number 1 on the board, Matthias Ekholm. You made a very interesting point right before we went to air. Can you please tell me why the Predators need to trade Matthias Ekholm?
Well, when you look at it, the expansion draft's coming up, right? We got Seattle, 32nd team entering the league, and if you're the Preds, you didn't make this mistake last time around when Vegas got into the league, but you lost a pretty good forward in James Neal because the way the expansion rules break down, as many of you, I'm sure, well-informed folks know, you get 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and a goaltender, or you get 4 forwards, 4 defensemen, and a goaltender. So the emphasis of keeping your fourth or your top 4 D core intact throughout the expansion draft, not too many teams took advantage of it because not too many teams have the D core that Nashville Predators have. But this time, I think it's got to change. There's just a few too many names that we need to keep depth-wise. Going to try and offload Johansson's contract somehow, some way.
Can you?
Nah, probably not.
We'll see.
We'll maybe get Seattle a second and a third and a fourth and a fifth, and
Yeah.
maybe they'll take it. But anyways, Matthias Ekholm, he's been playing lights out hockey since he's got back from injury. This graphic is not updated, but he scored 3 more goals than what indicates there on the board.
Well, this is from March 1st, so this is like a week.
From March
it's like
1st.
a week
Again, he's had a great week.
Yeah.
So when you look at the top of the board, it's a defenseman-heavy board, obviously. You got Matthias at the top, David Savard from the Blue Jackets, Tony DeAngelo, Brandon Montour. It's a defenseman's buyer's market, so I don't know what the packages are going to go for.
Yeah.
I'd like to see some picks, obviously, coming back to Nashville, some future assets.
Well, we're going to have to see how teams want to approach this trade deadline. how the border is going to affect everything, how money is going to affect everything, contracts, Seattle, everything. It's a crazy trade deadline, and I don't know if there's going to be a ton of action.
And
but
the draft is scheduled to still remain in July.
They're keeping
the NHL entry draft.
They're
the expansion draft. When is the expansion draft for Seattle? Fans, help us out, Jamie. I know you're there.
No, it's before the draft.
It's before the NHL
It
would make
draft.
sense, right?
Yeah.
Because Seattle's going to have to pick in this draft, right?
So that's going to do it for the Vigor fan vote for tonight. That's brought to you by Vigor Lifestyles. That's vigr.ca. Check out their natural health and healing supplements line, including the amazing Elk Velvet Antler, which I know Max was popping earlier. It's a great product, and we both use it to this day. That's vigor.ca to get started on the right path to health for you. We're heading to a break. After the break, guy I know pretty well. Max got to know him a little while ago. Yeah, we got our first guest coming up, Scott Munroe, after the break. Stay tuned. Don't rack your brain trying to source the equipment and materials you need for your business. Rockstar can operate your entire supply chain, from PO creation to expediting your shipments, all from our office. Leverage the buying power of the Rockstar Buying Group to not only save money and time, but also the headache. From gloves to glue, we can provide it for you. Find out more at rockstar.com.
Comfort has always been something we, as people, strive for. It means that the places we live and work, and that the people we care most about, are able to go about their lives focusing on the things that matter. While the world seems to be facing one challenge after another, our focus at FlameTech has remained the same for more than 20 years. Now more than ever, we need each other to support our local businesses. As an industry leader in combustion services, we are proud to attend to the needs of our communities and support the local economy.
He's covering everything that matters to you. It's the Rod Peterson Show. Tune in live Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to noon to catch the show live and be a part of the action. Take control by commenting live and sharing the show with your friends.
Everyday hoop life.
IKS Live, Western Canada's premier production services company. LED sign rentals, video production, event management. Look no further than IKS Live. Visit our website, IKS Live. Always the best seat in the house. IKS Live.
So, Max, we're breaking records here for viewership tonight because the entire Munroe clan is watching. I'm getting text messages from cousins.
I'm now part of it, according to your dad. So.
No, and I just also got a message that the Jets are now up 3-2 over the Leafs.
Awesome.
It's not awesome.
It's great.
I'm so mad. However, we're going to Arizona for our first guest. Don't bring him in yet, guys. Now, our first guest of the night is a guy that some would say I've known for my entire life. He set some records in the SJHL. Went on to the NCAA, got an undrafted contract to the NHL, and made a 10-year career out of it in pro hockey, which turned into coaching, and now turns into running a league and a rink facility down in Phoenix, Arizona. So, a brother from the same mother, Scott Munroe. You can bring him in now, guys.
You were stewing on that joke all day.
I wrote it up pretty good earlier. Scott, how's the weather down in Arizona today?
It's absolutely fantastic, you guys. I can't complain. I was telling you guys before here as we were checking in, I get to work in youth hockey down here, and I get to leave the rink, and it's 80 degrees, and there's palm trees outside. So I don't have too many complaints these days.
Working in hockey in Saskatchewan, it was always the saying that if you're wearing shorts to the rink, you're either in the playoffs or the season hasn't started yet. So it's usually a good thing. So you get to do that every day. Not a bad life.
That's correct. That's correct.
So Scott, you've been pretty well traveled in your life, in your career, but now you're settling down in Phoenix, and we mentioned it before. You're wearing the Cardinals shirt. You got the Coyotes next door to you. So what are the vibes right now down in Phoenix with J.J. Watt coming to town? First of all,
Still not the best 99 in the division, though, Scott, I must say.
Aaron Donald.
Yes, sir.
Well, I hear you there, Max. So as I was saying to you guys, I've been a little bit of a nomad here, and I haven't had a lot of roots to sports teams. It would basically boil down to whoever was signing my paycheck, and that's who I was a fan of at the time. So to be able to be here in Phoenix, the Phoenix area, with all 4 major sports here, when we kind of moved here, we're like, okay, we're all in Arizona sports. Although I still bleed blue for the Blue Jays, and I will. But, in the National League, I'll cheer for the D-backs here. But as you spoke about Prescott here early in the show, my only concern with that contract is in a couple more years, how much are we going to have to pay Kyler Murray? And that's going to be the concern. I actually saw $160 million, and quite honestly, guys, I was like, oh, that's all? Based on the Mahomes contract and all that's been going around and how much Dak was apparently asking for, I was like, oh, okay, 160. I thought there was going to be a 3 in front of that contract, but here we are. So that's the crazy thing. But like I said, I just don't know what Kyler Murray is going to cost the guys down here. But the last 3 off seasons have been a lot of fun here in Arizona. But let's hope they can get some wins on the board and get to the playoffs.
You've been a Philadelphia Eagles fan. You've been a Patriots fan. Where else have you been? A Pittsburgh Steelers fan for a couple days. So you've been around. And now you're settling in. You're settling in.
Yeah, for sure. I think I can just finally plant some roots and try to become a real fan of a team here now for a little while. So I've got some options down here for the first time in a while.
That's fair. It feels good once you get settled in.
Fair.
But then you start getting that turmoil every year too. So you're welcoming to that. You'll get that pretty soon, I'm sure. But another team that's right next door to you, like I said, is the Arizona Coyotes. And you actually have a pretty cool connection to the Arizona Coyotes. So can you talk about Conor Garland, who's emerging as one of their best players, and how he's kind of developed over the last couple of seasons?
Yeah, of course. So obviously I'll elaborate on that a little bit, Clark, but my first coaching job was right after I retired from playing, and I got hired in Moncton, New Brunswick as the goalie director for that team. And that first year, Conor Garland was on the team. And I shared with you guys a little bit earlier that, he did things that I had really not seen in any level of hockey. The way that he handled the puck and his edge work and the way he shifted gears and changed directions at the junior level was almost at times unfair. And those guys at that level can win you hockey games. And so, his leash was pretty long and deservedly so. But, so I got to know Conor. I got to see him firsthand. And then, his road he was a 5th round pick. He ends up in Tucson in the American Hockey League for a couple of years, doesn't light it up by any stretch, and then kind of slowly makes his way into the Coyotes as a, 4th liner, 3rd liner. And then last year gets 20 plus goals and then really starts to establish himself. And now really this year he's playing top 6 minutes, power play time. And I'm starting to see some of the things that I saw him do in junior, and now he's doing it at the NHL level. So really cool. It's just kind of cool to be able to track somebody like that who's right in the same city. We've actually exchanged a couple of text messages. I try not to bother him, but we had a little Mites on Ice. That's our 7 and 8 year olds. And they do a Coyote game every year. So this was pre-COVID. My son Jack got to go and be part of this Mites on Ice. And, I'd been in touch with Conor, and he came out and met the kids after the game. And pretty cool and just nice that he was able to do that for us and kind of keep that connection. So I'm really pumped for him. I'd love to see the Coyotes get a few more wins, but I think they're kind of in a little bit of a tough spot and probably going to have to rebuild at least a little bit. And that's why we kind of mentioned on the Saturday show a couple names like Goligoski and Hjalmarsson being potentially available via trade, because I think that's the direction they need to go.
Yeah, they're probably right on time for a little tinkering, and I know
retooling, so to speak.
Yeah, they had that issue with the draft workouts, and firing their GM,
and they're down a first-round pick, I believe, still as
because of that. They traded a lot away to get Taylor Hall, and we talked about that too, but it didn't quite work out like they wanted, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the Coyotes are an interesting case. It's you're in for a ride down there.
Fantastic jerseys, though, Scott. Have you picked up your Kachina threads yet?
Not yet. But I certainly need to. They are sharp. And another nice development down here with the franchises. They brought Shane Doan back in.
Yes.
And I work for a facility called the Ice Den, and one of our rinks is actually called the Shane Doan rink. So he's still a big part of this community and a big part of hockey down here. So it's really great to see him back involved and be part of that team. They've got new ownership. New GM. I know the last summer and surrounding with Chaika leaving and all that, and I don't know quite what happened, but hopefully now they've got firm ownership for hopefully the first time in a while. New GM who's got a Stanley Cup on his resume. So Mr. Optimistic fan here, but let's go Yotes.
Optimistic is good.
Absolutely. Now, Scott, I feel like I've been doing research on you for 29 years or so, so I feel like I know a thing about you.
Sure.
So you played, you were a goaltender. It's one of the craziest positions in sports. I would consider you a pretty normal person for a goaltender, but we'll get into that maybe a little bit later. Now, you started late, though, as a goaltender. You didn't start until you were about 12 or 13. Am I wrong in saying that?
Ballpark, yeah, like in and around that. I honestly, Clark, can't quite remember, but we were still living in Redverse, Saskatchewan. For those of you Saskatchewanites that would know where the heck that is, but
there's a few of them in
that's
here
where
today.
I actually started. Right, I started my goalie journey there, and then we shortly after moved back to Moose Jaw. But definitely took the long road, and quite honestly, guys, as I've now been retired and then got into coaching and scouting. When I now got out into the junior hockey circuit again and trying to scout and recruit for both the CHL in the Quebec League and then NCAA, there are so many kids playing hockey. And you think back, go, how the heck did I make it? How did somebody find me? How was I able to get to where I got and play as long as I played? It almost, I appreciate it more now than I did kind of in the journey, right? So pretty cool, but yeah, certainly, Saskatchewan minor hockey and Moose Jaw minor hockey all the way through, and then somehow, some way SJHL, and then I went to Alabama. So that was a pretty big culture shock for a kid who had never really left the province, at least the country. So yeah, crazy stuff.
I can't remember who I heard it from, but somebody once said it was one of those kind of stories. Like, I don't know how I got here. I got extremely lucky. He's like, well, I guess I played on teams with a lot of good players, and the scouts just saw me there. So that's how I got discovered. Maybe that's your case, because I know you played on a team with a couple of good players back in the day. A Super Bowl champion being one of them, John Ryan. We don't need to get too deep into that.
Yeah,
story,
correct.
You were a tandem goaltender with John Ryan back in the day in the Moose Jaw AAA system. So that's pretty cool. It's one of your names on your board of famous teammates. But I was always wondering, who was a guy that you looked up to? And I remember a couple posters on your wall. Again, doing some research here.
Investigative research, 20 years in the making.
But I want to see if I'm correct in saying this. Who is a couple of the guys that you modeled your game after, kind of as you maneuvered your way through your teenage years?
I was a huge Chicago Blackhawks fan, and Eddie Belfour was my guy. And
I was
so
right.
Actually, so my last year playing, I ended up in Springfield with the Falcons, and I did like a Eddie Belfour, Eddie the Eagle helmet, because the Falcon logo matched up real nice to that. And so that's the last helmet I got to wear professionally. But yeah, Ed Belfour I was a huge fan. I love the Hawks. I love those red jerseys. And he was a guy that, went that college route, caught on, I believe, as a free agent out of North Dakota, and took that road. And so he was a guy I followed. And then as I kind of got a little older and into like college, Roberto Luongo and those French Canadians coming out of Canada were the guys that I kind of started to try to model after a little bit. But again, as I was mentioning to you guys earlier, I didn't have a real like full-time or even part-time goalie coach until I got to the Flyers organization. So a lot of it at that time was just sort of figure it out, trial and error. And, you always wonder what if, but if I would have had a little more guidance along the way, who knows if it would have resulted in anything more. But either way, no regrets. But, it's kind of funny to think of now as I am into coaching and into like the private lessons and all that kind of stuff, like how much extra these kids are getting. And it's like private lessons on your skill work. It's video coaching. It's really, there's a lot. And I actually work for a hockey academy down here too that just opened up this year called Total Package Hockey. Small plug there. But these kids are on the ice for an hour every day and also doing dry land. Like this is in the morning, and then they still will go and practice with their club teams, whether it's the Junior Coyote program or the Arizona Bobcats down here, Junior Sun Devils. They'll go practice with that team later in the day. So it's just all immersive now for the people the people that can afford it, because it's not cheap. But it's definitely a huge shift. And, we were talking, and maybe we'll continue to talk about how the players have changed over the years. And this is certainly one of those aspects where kids are getting so much specialized attention that they're developing so much faster and at such a younger age. And now you see these kids coming in the NHL, 18, 19, 20, and they're ready and they're impactful players. And in the salary cap world, that's been the shift where these teams need entry-level contracts to perform. And you're really seeing that shift over the last few years.
I have to chime in with a couple of comments. Alan, if you can put up the comment from Jamie Munroe. It's our good cousin, Jamie. He says, your goaltending journey started in Grandpa Clarney's basement. That's our grandfather.
in front of the freezer.
Yeah, the legendary deep freeze. You mentioned the legendary deep freeze. So there you go. Yeah, and your sister who is also my sister, Taryn, says, Jamie, even I played hockey in that basement. So there you go. A lot of generations of hockey played in that basement specifically. Max, I'm going to let you talk for a change. Here you go. You're up.
No problem. That's okay. Hey, like I said, it's a family reunion. Yeah, well. You guys do what you got to do. But anyway, Scott, so it's funny. You alluded to it earlier, right? Goaltending coaching. Now, I'm curious, have you ever, during your professional career, received unsolicited goaltending advice from my co-partner in crime over there in that chair? And if not, what do you think his words of wisdom would be, given what you know about his hockey fandom outside of, hey, you know what, Scott, maybe just go sign with the Leafs?
You know what, guys? I would have loved to sign with the Leafs. I'm not a Leafs fan. I wasn't a Leafs fan, but I've actually, obviously Austin Matthews is an Arizona product, and that's a big deal down here in this state for sure. But I certainly have started to watch more Leaf games lately because I'll be honest, I think they're a fun team to watch. And, there was like, for about a split second, guys, a few years back, I was able to put my name in the hat for the goalie coaching position for the Marlies. Now, I never, nothing came of that, but for like a brief second, I'm like, oh my gosh, like Clark is going to go nuts if it out. So, but it didn't, and I'm now here in beautiful Arizona. So everything works out the right way. But yeah, we're fine. But you know what? No unsolicited advice. But like I know, obviously, you need a good support system if you're gonna get to those types of levels. And I certainly had one with our family. And this is I am happy to see you guys doing this show. It's awesome. It's great to be on here and kind of report back.
Yeah, so I was going to say, I don't think I gave him any unsolicited advice. Our friend Emery Wolf says I probably just told him to be better. I don't know if I ever did, but I have been punched in the face a few times by an errant father in the stands, swinging his glove up or kicking his foot out or something along those lines in the old Notre Dame rink in Wilcox or the Moose Jaw rinks back in the day. I remember a few of those errant fists or something getting in the way. Who knows?
That's fantastic. Scott, I must mention before Clark goes into his
No, you're the next. So you're up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I have to mention this. As soon as you mentioned Austin Matthews in Arizona and the Coyotes and Leafs in the same sentence, Clark just did one of the. I
started sweating a little bit.
Because in 4 years, I think that's going to be a very prominent conversation when his contract is up. But either way, you're causing some stress for him here.
It's okay. These are really hot lights. Okay?
Sure. Well, I'll say this, guys. Like, obviously, that's certainly something that people discussed, or at least my friends here in Arizona. It's like, what if, right? I actually brought that up to a buddy of mine, and my thought was, at that point in Austin's career, he's going to be in his like mid to late 20s. He's going to want to be in a position to win. He's not ready to I don't want to, say mail it in, but if he was like 35 and he signed as a token, I'm coming back to Arizona, he's still going to be at his absolute peak. And the Coyotes, if they're going to want to have any chance, they're going to have to be competitive. So they're going to need to figure their own things out here over the next few years to put themselves even in the conversation, both from a salary cap standpoint and a competitive standpoint. So that's what I think. I mean, that's my 2 cents as the armchair GM. But, we've got Keller locked up for 8 years. Schmaltz is locked up for a while. My boy Conor Garland's probably due for a real nice raise off of his, I think, $750,000. And he's a restricted free agent, but they're going to have to open the checkbook a little bit for him. But it's fun to be going back to NHL hockey games, and I obviously hockey in the Valley. Bettman's been fighting for this for a long time, so I don't think they're going to pull the plug on hockey out here. But obviously, being competitive is going to help. And you guys have seen in the early 90s or mid-90s here with Kachuk and Roenick and Habibulin, when the Yotes were rocking it in the playoffs, I mean, the whiteouts are coming out and, like, the barn's packed. So, much like a lot of cities, but if you're good, people will show. And it'd be nice to see some packed houses here again, obviously, once this COVID thing is behind us. But I'm excited to get back to some games.
The old saying, how do you spell marketing? W-I-N comes to mind. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I remember, though, when they did make their conference finals run, where they lost out, I believe, to the Kings in one of their championship years. I remember being so surprised watching those games, like you said, seeing the whiteouts, seeing how much of a hockey market is possibly there in Arizona. But as Clark said, you got to win, right?
Mike Smith in his prime, man.
For sure.
Oof, he made a lot of money off that playoff run.
Pretty good Saskatoon native in net right now that would be nice to see.
Darcy Kemper,
few meaningful wins in his career. But
Kemper, guys, he is a good goalie. Let me tell you, like, being able to watch him night in, night out, he is a huge reason they're competitive. And he's got this year and next at 4.5. And I mean, that's a guy that if a team needs a goalie at an affordable price, that's a guy that you could look at. He's real fun to watch for sure.
Absolutely. And I mean, with that being said, you've obviously got a very unique eye being able to evaluate goaltenders. And Clark tells me that you did have a very, very good seat for a few games in your career. Can you maybe talk about what the experience it was like dressing in those NHL games? I mean, it's an incredible accomplishment. And I'm just wondering if you have any cool stories from that time in your career, whether if it was a fun road trip or a couple of good dinners. I'm sure you've got some awesome stories, but maybe just a fun one or two that you've got from those days.
Oh, for sure. Well, obviously, yeah. So like I said, guys, earlier on, I really, looking back, don't know how the heck I got where I got, but I was able to back up 12 NHL games, all with the Flyers, kind of spanned over 2 different seasons. But I did get to back up a game against the Leafs in Philly. I was in Montreal in the Bell Center against the Habs, and I actually thought for a second I might have to go in. They scored 3 quick goals, and of course, in Montreal, guys, you sit on the other side of the rink in this like little tunnel. So the dressing room's on the other side. You got to skate across to the bench. There's not enough room on the bench, so the backup sits on the other side. So here I am. The Habs score 3 quick goals. The place is going berserk. And my stomach is in my throat, sitting right here. And I'm almost, it's one of those things where, of course, you want to play a game and play in Montreal, but you're like, oh my gosh, like, do I make eye contact with the coach? Do I look at my feet? What am I supposed to do here? And
if I don't look at him,
Danny Briere, kind of, right? And then, so guys, Danny Briere was there doing some rehab, but he was traveling with the team. And so because we're on the other side underneath by the locker room, I hear him call my name, and I look behind me, and he goes, hey, come here. And he said, do you need me to warm you up or take some shots on you or anything? And I'm like, of course I'm like, no, I'm good. But then as I thought about that, like Briere, established NHL vet, like one of the top players in the Flyers at the time on a huge contract. And like he comes to me, who's this call-up who had just been around for a couple of weeks, asking if he can help me try to prepare for this game. And so that's something I'll actually never forget. And I just thought that was like such a classy move by him. And so it turns out I never did go in that game, but that Bell Center, guys, I tell you what, it's really, really awesome. And I think a lot about our grandpa Clarny Clark and how much he did not like the Habs. And that was kind of like, that's always stuck with me. But as I've gotten older, I've got more appreciation for the Montreal organization, but I always have that bias with Grandpa Clarny. And then the last one I'll leave you with so I don't go too long, but I actually did get an opportunity to go to MSG too and back up the Rangers against the Rangers. But the first time I was at MSG twice, the first time I got sent down after morning skate. But I knew that was happening because the other guy, Antero Niittymaki at the time, back to New York, and he was at morning skate. So I kind of put 2 and 2 together. But I actually stayed on the ice for as long as I possibly could. So for about 10 minutes, I was skating around the ice on MSG by myself, like just shooting pucks against the glass and delaying the inevitable. And that was like a really cool experience. And then luckily enough, down the road, I did get to back up a game against the Rangers too. So, guys, like, for 12 games, that's some pretty neat experiences. But I'll tell you what, it was the best seat in the house, and those guys get treated like gold, and it's a pretty good ride if you can get there.
Awesome.
Absolutely. We got another commenter coming in, and you'll recognize this name after I mention it. Randy Peterson says, good to see you and hear you, Scott. I played hockey with Clarny.
Of course.
I played hockey in Clarny and Helen's basement. I mean, Clarny probably jumped into a game or two, as well as Clark and Scott's dad, Rod, longtime listener and viewer of the Rod Peterson Show, Randy Peterson. Thank you, Randy, for tuning in. So, Scott, one thing I love telling people when they find out that I had a brother who played pro is that you went over to Russia and Sweden for a year apiece. So can you, explain how, I know Russia was kind of different than Sweden. You were at different points in your career, et cetera, but how did it come to the decision to go to Russia and Sweden? And can you compare the two cultures, leagues, countries, styles of play, et cetera, with, I mean, I know that's probably a deep question,
in a 5,000-word essay, Scott. Clark's not asking.
Yeah, for sure. So like I said, how much time do we have here? But so minutes. At that time, guys, I had just finished my fourth AHL season, and I actually had an offer from a team in Russia. But I was going into my first foray into free agency and coming off like a really strong year in the American Hockey League. So I kind of at the time thought, if I'm ever going to have a crack at the NHL, like this is the summer and this is the year. And so I actually declined that offer and ended up signing with the Islanders. That particular year did not quite work out as I had hoped it would have at the time of the signing. They ended up they had Ricky DiPietro, Dwayne Rollison, and then they got Marty Biron late in the offseason. So that really kind of threw a wrench in what they had told me in the recruiting process. But I ended up having a good enough year that year in Bridgeport in the American Hockey League that I then after that, I thought, okay, guys, like I gave it a shot. It hasn't quite worked out. I want to try and I'll be honest, make a few bucks. And the best way to do that outside of the NHL was in the KHL. So I reached back out to my agent and I said, if that opportunity comes up again, let me know, like, I'm interested. So I did end up getting an offer, and I went over there, and it was such a difference in mentality. And I know we kind of started to talk a little bit about coaching. Those Russian coaches, let me tell you, are still like, a lot of them are still like Russian hockey coaches like you would see in the movies. It was wild. And that's where it's like, you're going to do it this way, or we're going to cut you and bring somebody else in. And so there was 5 imports originally when we started camp. By the end of camp, there was 2. And then by the first month of the season, I was the only one left of the import guys. So every day I went to the rink, I'm just like, is this the day? Is this the day? Is this the day? And long story short, they didn't end up cutting me, but it was a wild year. But also like a really awesome experience. Sergei Fedorov was still in the league. Jaromir Jagr was in the league. Dominik Hasek, who was like one of those guys that we talked about who I grew up watching, I got to play against him on the same sheet of ice, which was bizarre. Alexei Yashin, Evgeny Nabokov. So like NHL stars were in the league. Radulov was playing for a team called Ufa. So like it was really awesome to be able to play against those players. And there's so many other like unreal, and you're seeing it with the guy from the Wild, that Kaprizov right now. Mm-hmm. Like that's a guy that has played like 5 KHL seasons, and he's coming over, and he's almost must-see TV. And I've never said that about the Minnesota Wild. And so,
no,
that's right.
We were chirping them earlier this year, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. But now the other day, I'm like, oh, the Wild are playing. Like, I want to watch this kid play. And before this year, I don't know if I could really tell you who's on the Minnesota Wild, So there are like really, really good players in that league. And we're talking like the top guys from Sweden, the top guys from the Czech, top guys from Finland. They flood into the KHL. So it's really high skill hockey. It's definitely more of like the puck possession game, where if you're approaching the red line and you don't see a way to enter the zone, you're going to circle back and then you're going to try again. You're not just going to dump the puck in and see if you can get it back. You don't give the puck up. So there's more of like that soccer strategy to it. And I mean, again, guys, like I got some stories that some, like there's not enough time in the show, but it was, there was some absolutely bizarre moments, but it was one of those things where I was able to have that experience. And it's another one that not many people get to experience, especially as an import goaltender in Europe. That's even harder. And so it's really cool. And we learned a little bit of Russian. I had actually gotten married that summer in June, and then left for Russia in like late July, and then didn't see my new wife for like three months until they were able to get the visa and get her over there. So just bizarre stuff and a totally different world. But again,
so just to cut you off really quick, Scott, I know we have a few people watching who are WHL fans. Can you pronounce the team you played on?
I can. So they go kind of backwards. Like you say the nickname of the team. So our team was called Neftahimic, which translates into like petrochemist, which is so just all of their plants. Like guys, every city in Russia almost looks the same. Where the skyline is like there's no skyline, like there's no big tall buildings, and then the tallest things are the smokestacks for all the factories, and smoke just billowing for miles. These factories are like miles long. It's not. So and then the name of the city was called Nizhnekamsk, and so you're probably going to need like a real intricate globe to find that on a map, but it was about an hour and a half or 2-hour flight southeast of Moscow. So anyway, crazy.
For our WHL fans, I'm just going to say currently playing on that team is former Moose Jaw Warrior and Prince George Cougar Nikita Papagayev.
Papagayev.
Yeah,
Oh,
Papagayev.
okay, yeah.
Well-known name to Max, Andre Kostitsyn
Andre Kostitsyn
is on that team
There you
now.
go.
Mr. Andre Kostitsyn.
And for Pats fans, not on it anymore, but he played on it last year, Pavel Padakin, the Russian that came over a few years back with the Pats.
Interesting.
And then, Scott, you said you shifted over to Sweden, and you told us earlier it was like a country club. So can you kind of go into the difference between communist Russia and other type of communist Sweden? In a good way. It's great.
So more of, I'd say, like socialist Sweden.
Socialist.
I was joking. Yeah, of course. Well, like I said, guys, Russia, especially in the city I was in, there was very little English. So I did take some Russian classes and learned a little bit, like very, very basic, but I did kind of understand and learn how to like decipher the language so I could read things at the grocery store, street signs and things like that, which turned out to be extremely helpful. And then, of course, shifting gears and going to Sweden, where everybody speaks English. And actually, if you would enter a store and they would greet you in Swedish, and you would say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't speak Swedish," they would be overly apologetic. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." Well, and then just flip to English, and so even our coaching staff on our team, they address the team in English. So that, and we did have quite a few imports, but it was obviously. Things like that makes it so much easier for the import guys coming in. Our entire team spoke Russian, and the coaches addressed the team in Russian. And there's lots of times where I'd kind of like lean over to one of the guys that did speak English, and I said, "What did he say?" And if it was like real bad, he'd say, "Don't worry about it." So like if he's ripping a strip off us, he'd like, "It's fine, nothing, don't worry." So most of the meetings, guys, in Russia, like I had no idea what the heck was going on. And then you go to Sweden and it's like way more accommodating. And like we landed and they drove us right to this real nice little apartment. And we had our car in the driveway that they were going to let us use for the year. And the quality of life in Sweden is phenomenal. Great city, beautiful place. So fans are awesome. So like that part of it was just so much easier. And that was getting near the end of my career. And I was just like, oh my gosh, if I could stay here for just a couple of years and kind of ride this wave for a bit, that would be great. But then of course, in the competitive world of professional hockey, it turned out to be a 1-year stint. And then back to North America I came.
Did anyone ever go missing while you were in Russia? We've heard some stories.
No, I know. There's so many horror stories, guys. I fortunately don't really have any in that regard. Like I don't have too many shady instances of like payments. We were asked to throw 2 games at the end of the year, though, because if we were to win those games, we would have played a team called Kazan, which is basically picture like Moose Jaw playing Regina in the playoffs, right? So our region of Russia was called the Tatarstan region. And so once our smaller market team would get knocked out, the bigger market AK Bears, who like lots of NHL guys went over there during the lockout, they're always like a perennial contender. So once we would get knocked out, everybody would shift gears and cheer for Kazan because that's still their region of Russia. So and again, this is all kind of the translation from players, but the threat was if you guys don't lose these games and finish 8th instead of 7th, we're not going to pay you your bonuses and like you're in big trouble. So sure enough, we threw 2 games. And it was bizarre. I was playing the game against St. Petersburg, so they had Yashin and they had the guys. And I'm trying to salvage this season because it was not up to what I was hoping it was going to be. So I'm out there like trying to win the game and trying to at least like keep it close. And we're being told like, you do not win this game. You cannot win this game. And so guys
that's why they put you in net, Scott.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
I had to
but guys, like it was No, it's fine. It's good. It's good. But it was just bizarre. We had guys shooting pucks over the glass to take penalties and skating to the red line and then turning around and skating it back into our zone. Like, I had never seen anything like that before. And I'm just kind of partly thinking, I was upset. I was frustrated, but I'm like, I cannot believe that this is the second best league in the world, or at least that's what they are claiming.
Right.
I do think that things have cleaned up a little bit, but it's just one of those wild things where what is going on right now? And that's one of those years, the rush year, where you're like, just when you thought you saw everything type of thing, now there was this, or now there was that. So again, an experience that I wouldn't trade.
Absolutely. And Scott, just before Clark introduces the final topic of the evening, I just have to say, we've scratched the surface on the stories, but I'll just make sure, Clark will get in touch with your people so we can book a reappearance. We'll get a second one going here. So when it works out for your camp, like I said, we'll get Clark on that right away, but he'll introduce the final topic of the evening.
So we got a question in from Emery Wolf, and he says, any story of your choosing, Scott, that could embarrass Clark would be great.
That too.
I'll let you ruminate on that and think about that, but we wanted to get to the coaching. We talked about this before, but we only have, let's say, 6 minutes, so we don't have too long to go deep into this, but just give us a synopsis, because like I was saying, you kind of played really competitive high-level hockey from about the year 2000 to about 2015, and you played in all sorts of places, different coaching styles, different cultures, etc. But we were talking about it over the weekend, me and Max, and you chimed in, but about how coaching, how players, the style of players, the mentality of players seems to have switched really fast, and coaching hasn't quite caught up, and that's where we're seeing all these players saying that they've been abused. And I mean, hey, I'm not going to say anything about victims. If they were, absolutely. If they think they were, absolutely. We believe everyone, but it seems like there was a massive shift in mentality for coaching, in specifically coaching. So from your experience, guys you played with, and then getting into coaching yourself, what did you notice over your career that maybe switched a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So my first foray into the professional side of it was with the Philadelphia Flyers organization. So you talk about the image of the Flyers and, Paul Holmgren. Actually, my first NHL contract, Bobby Clark's signature's on it. So Bobby Clark was still the GM. Paul Holmgren was the assistant GM and then became the GM. Ron Hextall was still there and actually was the guy that I think, to my knowledge, kind of was the one that found me and recruited me. And then, you've got Shel Samuelson in the American League. You've got Craig Berube as a coach. I ended up having John Paddock as a coach. And guys, honestly, just quick shout out to John Paddock. He's probably really helped me establish my AHL career. He believed in me. I was a starter for that team the year he coached, and he gave me every opportunity. And I share a story with that where, one day he called me into his office and he just said, Scotty, I was in a slump at the time, and he said, listen, I'm going to keep putting you back in the net. I know you'll figure this out, but just know that I'm going to keep putting you back in. So take that off your plate and just go play. And that did more for me, just to know that the coach has my back and has confidence in me. And I hadn't really had that flag waver for me quite yet in my career. And that really helped. And that was my best year as a pro was under John. And one of my favorite coaches to this day. But again, sorry to digress there, but so guys, obviously the Flyers system, and they had all those alumni, and they would all come back into the system, and they're rough guys. But what I noticed most was that when I signed my contract and I flew from Alabama to Philly, and I got into that locker room in the American League, because we shared the same facilities in Philadelphia. It was the Phantoms and the Flyers. We shared a practice facility. We still played at the Spectrum, and the Flyers played across the street at the big rink. But there was about 3 or 4, maybe even 5 guys that were in their 30s and had NHL experience on that Phantoms team. And then by my third year in the league, I was 26 years old, and I was the second oldest player on our team. And I don't think we had anybody in their 30s. So that's how fast the mindset of the American Hockey League shifted away from like a place where veteran guys can still keep playing to being now those guys were pushed to Europe, and it was a much younger age of player playing in the American Hockey League. And then as I got older and was trying to hang on to my AHL career, I would see these young guys come up, and then again, maybe this is like just the grizzled old grumpy like veteran, but I would see these young guys keep getting these opportunities where I felt they weren't earned, and they were just getting handed these opportunities because they were a draft pick, or because of their youth, or somebody was vouching for them, or whatever the case may be. And that was a frustrating thing to kind of see, because even if I outperformed, like, let's say a young goalie, if he was a second round pick, he's getting the next start no matter how well I played. And that was a little bit difficult to kind of wrap my head around. But again, that's kind of sour grapes, and that is the business. But that was one of the biggest shifts that I saw. But you also see like the players don't respond to getting screamed at. They just don't. And not that that's the right way to do it necessarily anyway. But what I've seen more now, and as I've gotten into coaching, it's connection with players. So you see a lot more coaches taking time to get to know players on a personal level. How are your folks? What about your sister? Like, what's up with your dog? What's your dog's name? Like, all these little things, so that they can try to develop a connection and a rapport and get to know the players so they know what button they can push. And some guys do still respond well to that hard coaching. And I was one of those players. I could handle it. I felt like, okay, you're right, I'm not playing well enough. I could look in the mirror and say that. There are players that I would come across that they truly thought they were playing well. And you're like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, you got to work, you got to do. But they're like, what are you talking about? Like, why am I not on the first power play anymore? Like, that's BS. That's a coach's problem. Like, I'm calling my agent. I started to see and hear a lot more of that as I was getting older. And, it became like the woe is me coach yelled at me versus maybe he's right. Maybe I need to work harder. And again, that's not everybody, but that's what I started to see more of. And that was kind of that shift from that older player to the younger player. And again, not saying that it's right or wrong, but there's definitely been a shift. And I think a lot of it for the better, where people are more able to speak out when they do feel like something has happened. Whereas, like, even when I was kind of growing up, it was like, maybe it didn't, or you didn't have the avenues to talk about it. And a lot of that's become more available, more resources, more acceptance. I think that was a big thing, guys. And we kind of joked, like, if you did something wrong, you're getting traded to LaRange, or you're getting traded to Mirror Machine, New Brunswick.
Yeah.
But that was the threat, right? So it's like, oh, I better not say anything, or like, I'm out of here, or I'm getting cut, or I'm getting released, or whatever. And that's not so much the case anymore. And obviously social media has a big part of that, but player empowerment is come a long way. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but I also don't think that we should just automatically eliminate like accountability and hard coaching. And we've talked, about John Tortorella, but guys, how many times have you actually heard any players come out and say something poorly about John Tortorella? It's always the media. It's not his players. And even like I tried to dig in on the Dubois thing, and I didn't really hear him say too much about John Tortorella. And my first coach was Darren Rumble, who was on the 2004 Cup-winning Tampa Bay team. And then Tortorella helped him get into coaching. And guys said, the guy that you guys see in the media is not the guy that's in the locker room. And guys love playing for Torts. And so from that moment on, I really started to follow Torts and watch him. And I love the way he coaches. And I think he holds guys accountable. And I think if you ask a lot of guys, he pushed them to limits that they didn't probably think they could get to. And I think he turned a guy, if you look at Nick Foligno, I love the way Nick Foligno plays. And that's a perfect match for a Tortorella system. But that's a guy that, like, he's got a good contract. He's a captain of Columbus. And, you know, like, because it's a Tortorella team, the system fits. But I think, like, I heard Brad Richards talk about him and just how complimentary he was of what Torts did for him in Tampa when they won the Cup. And so anyway, like I said, hard coaching is not always a bad thing. Accountability is not a bad thing. Adversity is not a bad thing. And what as I work in youth hockey now, one of my biggest fears is that we're shielding kids from adversity and not allowing them to have the ability to fight through it. So then they get sheltered and coddled and sheltered and coddled. And then all of a sudden they get out in the big world and they're hit with adversity right in the face and they don't know what to do. And then it's like, I better call my agent. I better call my mom. Something's wrong. I didn't get my way. And that's still a little bit of my mindset and mentality. And like, we've got an 8-year-old son playing hockey. And fortunately, my wife and I are on the same page, but he doesn't get away with too much. And the big thing I tell him is, I need you to work hard and I need you to have a good attitude. I don't care if you score 0 goals or 100 goals, but if one of those two things falls, then you and I have a problem. I don't care about the results. I care about hard work and attitude. And that's what I've tried to preach to him so far in his little young hockey career. But that's what I believe. And that'll get you to the next levels. And I would like to think that I probably extended my career a couple of years because of hard work and attitude.
That's perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for. Now, I mentioned earlier that you were going to have a chance to embarrass me before we let you go. And one thing I will say is that Scott left the house when I was like 8 or 9. So he has a small window because my really embarrassing years was when he was in college and playing his first couple years in pro.
It's not now?
Well, it might still be now. Ask my wife. She might tell you a story or two. But Scott, I don't know. I guess if you have a couple seconds, I guess we got to wrap it up right away. But if you have anything, I mean, I don't think there's much.
Go, Scott.
Well, there's not. I mean, you know, guys, Clark's a saint. I don't know if you guys knew that, but he's the youngest, and you know, we talk about being coddled and sheltered. Well, let me tell you, right? So, but you know, honestly, guys, I obviously I wouldn't do that to Clark, but he is right. And I actually just was talking about that before I came on. And you know, we've got a 10-year age gap here, and I was gone for a lot of those years. So when I left the house, you know, we've got an 18-year-old and an 8-year-old. So obviously at the time, there's not a lot of connection there as far as similarities. I'm off playing junior hockey and Clark's in middle school. So, you know, that's the unfortunate thing a little bit where I was gone and then I ended up in the States and I've been here kind of ever since. So it's fun now to be able to, as adults, being able to reconnect with sports. And that's the beauty of sports, right? Is there's always a way to just connect. And whether it's chirping you about the Leafs, Clark, or I can't really do that now because you can chirp me back about the Yotes. But
oh no, we can still chirp the Leafs, Scott.
Yeah, they're losing.
Yeah, right. Well, I've never. That's the thing, right, about Leafs fans is they just wear their heart on their sleeve, right? Like it's just never enough. You know, you got this great team and you got this Coach of the Year candidate and Kyle Dubas, the new age, you know, the new age GM and the new age coach doing their thing. And model franchise, and yet still it's not enough, and it's woe is me and all this. So, you know, that's the privilege of the Leaf fan, right? Just the highfalutin Leaf fan
who hasn't won a Stanley Cup in 55 years.
Who haven't won a playoff round in 60.
Oh, geez, I wasn't aware. You know, I never heard that before.
Don't worry, Scott. I got him covered. I'll keep him.
I don't get
grounded.
it that often. But thank you for telling me that I was the favorite child in the family. And on that note, we'll let you go.
Thanks a ton for the time, guys. Scott. This was awesome.
Awesome. Really appreciate it, guys. Keep doing your thing. Love it. And good luck. And honestly, guys, I hope things COVID-wise starting to loosen up for you guys when we get through this. You know, here in Arizona, it's like nothing happened. And that's how I feel sometimes. We just, you know, we're wrapping up our season. We've run a full season. Mm-hmm. I've got 300 families in my program alone, and we didn't have one hiccup through the whole thing. So whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it kind of depends who you ask. I know it's a polarizing topic, but for me, I got to keep working. My son got to play hockey this year. and that's what I'm happy about. So I wish you guys up there the best of luck. We got to get the borders open because I got a big road trip coming up there in the summer. So hopefully we get that worked out and I can see you guys in person.
Sounds good. Say hi to Biz Nasty and Eddie Lack for us while you're down there.
For sure.
I'll do my best. best. Hey, and I might have a Sean Burke connection for you. I work with his son at TPH. So
there you go.
There you go.
Hey, by the way, I texted Sean Burke last week when he got the job and said congrats. So I'm good there.
Good. Okay. Well, let me know if I can help.
Absolutely, I will.
Let me know if I can help.
Absolutely. Scott, see you later. We'll chat again soon, I hope.
Scott, take care.
Have a great night, fellas. Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right. Of course, that guest was brought to you by our good friends at IKS Media. What good little chat there.
You just couldn't let Scott have that. He had a connection for you, and you just.
Wow.
I texted Sean Burke last week.
Well, not a big deal, as they say. Not a big deal, Max.
Oh, okay.
Not a big deal. But as always, our guests are brought to you by IKS Media. Our great friends. They're the premier destination for event planning, live broadcasts, and entertainment, video screens, and hub cities when you're playing junior hockey. I guess apparently.
Fantastic.
So IKS Media, yeah. IKSmedia.ca. Another special honored guest just walked through the door. Brandon Rodmaker's coming in after the break from RBI Regina, and we're going to chat with him about some a little bit of baseball talk. So tune in, and we'll see you after the break. Don't rack your brain trying to source the equipment and materials you need for your business. Okay, because Rockstar can operate your entire supply chain from PO creation to expediting your shipments, all from our office. Leverage the buying power of the Rockstar Buying Group to not only save money and time, but also the headache. From gloves to glue, we can provide it for you. Find out more at rockstar.com.
Comfort has always been something we, as people, strive for. It means that the places we live and work, and that the people we care most about, are able to go about their lives focusing on the things that matter. While the world seems to be facing one challenge after another, our focus at FlameTech has remained the same for more than 20 years. Now more than ever, we need each other to support our local businesses. As an industry leader in combustion services, we are proud to attend to the needs of our communities and support the local economy.
He's covering everything that matters to you. It's the Rod Peterson Show. Tune in live Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to noon to catch the show live and be a part of the action. Take control by commenting live and sharing the show with your friends.
Everyday hoop life. Every day.
IKS Live. IKS Live. Western Canada's premier production services company. LED sign rentals. Video production. Event management. Look no further than IKS Live. Visit our website. IKS Live. Always the best seat in the house. IKS Live.
All right, hey, we are back, and funny comment comes through in the commercial break. Emery Wolf likes to chirp a little bit. But he's just a camera guy, so I mean, you can't give him too much credit. He says, "I guess a 30-minute, 6-minute talk runs in the family," and Emery knows because I've given him my fair share of 30-minute talks as well, so he knows what he's talking about. I'll give him credit for that, but. We have a special guest coming in for another 30-minute, 6-minute talk. We have Brandon Rodmaker, pitching coach and hype man from RBI Regina.
Yeah.
Straight from the boss's mouth on that one, the hype man. From RBI Regina baseball and softball training. Brandon, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. We've been requesting you for weeks, and Chris wasn't sure when he wanted to unleash you on the audience. So I'm glad you're here, and hopefully this is the first of many. So
I hope so.
Brandon, for reference, we played baseball with and against each other for many years. He was, I believe, did you and Max play on the same team?
Yeah,
back in
athletics, man.
In the athletics, there we go. So we're well acquainted, and we've worked together a little bit in the last couple of years as well. Yeah. But one thing we do share is we're both big Blue Jays fans, and if I can say, this is our Blue Jay. No, sorry, I wrecked it already, Max. Bluebird block. Brought to you by RBI Regina Baseball and Softball Training. Did I get that? Can you throw a little graphic up in the corner here, boys? There it is. Look at that, presented by RBI. So we're going to talk a little Jays, and then we'll get into what's going on at RBI. But first off, we were talking about, Nate Pearson just got announced that he's injured, so we're not going to see him for the first little while. But the Jays pitching staff in general, we were talking about it last week a little bit. Talk to me about what you think about the pitching staff, and now with Pearson out, what do you think they're going to do in general?
Well, the big thing with the Jays, I mean, they have guys a lot of young guys that have that potential. So, I mean, being able to have that opportunity, I think that's going to be a big thing for them. And, I mean, a lot of the guys like Robbie Ray, and they got all these guys, the new trades. Those guys have been dudes for other teams. Yeah. There's no reason why they can't be the guys for the Jays and get them through where they need to do. So, I mean, the big thing with the Jays right now with Nate Pearson, he's got to stay healthy. He's that guy that right now he'll be that number 2 guy, but hopefully down the road he can be that number 4. He can. That's the one thing the Jays will need to pick up and find that guy. Right. But I mean, they'll have to make it work, and they will have to find a way to win a ball game because I mean they got so much talent, from the offensive side, and if they're not able to, get through innings here as a pitching staff, and not help those runners, I mean. I don't know what to do. I mean, I hope for the best. So
that's one thing that we're kind of on the same page with. With Nate Pearson is that we don't want him to have to be the number 2 or 3 right now. Like we want the Jays to have some depth so that when he starts becoming a star, you then have that guy as your number 4 rather than, pushing him or stretching him into that number 2 spot right away. But you talk about the lineup, the offense in the lineup. Like, how pumped are you right now to see how all these guys fit together? We haven't seen it in spring training yet. They haven't had a full lineup yet in a game, and they haven't been broadcasting any games, so we haven't seen any of it. Yeah. But how excited are you for the Jays offense this year in general?
I mean, I'd be excited as a pitcher for the Jays.
Yeah,
I mean,
if you run support.
Like really, I mean, if you have all those guys hitting, doubles in the gap, hitting home runs, getting runs. I mean, as it's not strong pitching staff the Jays have, they have the potential, but at the same time, you should feel comfortable with that. And I mean, with guys like they have Guerrero, Biggio, he's gonna have a year. Yeah, I mean that guy is ready to go. And I mean, if he doesn't have a year, I'll be surprised. Mm-hmm. And then they have.
I love Kevin Biggio.
His glove's so good. Yeah. And and you got Bichette, and you got all these guys that are just about to hit that time and start really feeling comfortable. And a lot of it's feeling comfortable, and they don't have those more games they play, the more better they'll get.
One guy who always flies under the radar and I know you didn't do it on purpose, but me and Max do it all the time. When we're talking about the lineup, we always say Vladdy, Bichette, Biggio, and now Springer and Semien and whoever else. We always forget Lourdes Gurriel Jr. I always do it. I'm guilty. Yeah. And he's a guy that I think he just came out in the rankings, Max. Correct me if I'm wrong if you maybe saw it, but I think he's like 75th in the league ranked by MLB or whatever. Yeah. So he's a guy we can't overlook either. So like we did a mock lineup, and you could really do like 30 mock lineups and put together a pretty good cast. But how would you line up this roster as a coach? Take over the team for a sec. Who are you putting where?
That's the thing. I've seen so many things myself, and it's just like
you can't go wrong. There's no wrong answer.
There's not really.
Question.
I mean, you can play with it. You can play with it as much as you want, but you're still gonna have so many guys that are doing so many good things in different positions.
Max, you just walked in front of the camera.
I mean, that's the thing. You can have,
I'm calling him out.
So I mean, I don't know. You can have Springer as your 3-hole. I mean, you can have him You can have him if he's hitting the ball real well. You can have him wherever you want.
Yeah. I saw one lineup where like Semien was. Me and Max were talking. Semien was hitting like 7th or 8th, and we're like, God, that guy was almost the MVP 2 years ago. Like, anyways, right now across the MLB, I've noticed a trend of like guys will get hot for a year or two, but it's hard to stay dominant in the MLB for more than that. who right now are guys that you look up to? And when you're coaching young kids at RBI, maybe you reference them as examples. Like, who are guys that you use right now as an example?
Oh, I'm a big Andrew Miller guy.
Okay.
Yeah, I've always modeled my game. I think he's a bulldog out there.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
I've also been a big guy for Massive Bumgarner.
Yeah, okay.
You know, when I was able to see him live and see how he does his stuff, you know, behind the scenes, not just playing on TV, but just how he carries himself on and off the field.
And he can mash bombs.
Oh, and he can mash bombs.
Yeah.
I was able to see that in the World Series.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I was. Yeah. Me and
Were
my
you
dad
there?
Went. Yeah.
Ooh.
So that was something that was pretty cool. So, but yeah, Andrew Miller's been the guy for me.
I like that.
And he's been the guy that I've tried to model everything, just kind of this way he does his things on the mound, how he throws his pitches, how he, you know, goes about his business. That's the big thing. So that's one of the big guys I talk about a lot with just people at RBI or just people I coach in general.
I can't remember who it was, Max, just because you're like right beside me taking pictures off screen. But who was it? Barry Davis, Max, that we were talking to, and we talked about the Yankees bullpen those couple of years where it was like Betances, Miller, and then Chapman, and it's like you're not winning games, you're losing.
Yeah,
like you have no choice. So growing up, this is a different era now. Who, when you were growing up modeling your game, who did you kind of look up to as a young lefty in the Regina baseball system?
Young lefty in the Regina baseball system. I mean, when I think of lefties, there's a lot of guys that, you know, that stick up to me, you know, especially being from Pilot Butte, Saskatchewan, you know, playing from, you know, we called Pilot Butte Broncos, but now it's the White Butte Broncos.
Right.
But there's a lot of guys that, you know, me being a young guy, you know, Landon Edelman, that was the guy.
Oh,
that was the guy when I was younger.
Out. He watches sometimes.
There you go. I think
you just got some brownie points.
So that's
you might get a lasagna in your front step later tonight.
Oh, hey, mass equals gas. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go. But no, that's one guy that's who I used to watch. And it's like, hey, if he's doing it, why not me or why not anybody else? So, you know, that's one guy there. And, you know, just going to Red Sox games, you see guys and local guys and seeing, you know, makes Chris feel a little bit older, but when I was in high school,
same age as Chris. So
when I was grade 12, and he was a senior in college, and he was catching me, and I looked up to him there too. So that was probably the biggest thing.
What about major league guys?
Major league guys?
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, I mean that's the thing. I was like, I don't know. I liked Mark Burley.
Yeah,
that was a big guy, especially with the Jays.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just liked how he made guys feel uncomfortable. That was a big thing, especially with his off-speed pitches. As a kid, I was like, I want to throw a curveball like that.
Master.
But also, I ended up throwing a slider, so it didn't really work out too well. But that's probably one of the big guys I really looked up to.
One thing that whenever Chris comes in, I always make sure I mention this, and I've talked to other guys about this as well. But baseball in Canada has been booming the last, I'm going to say 7, 8, 9 years.
Yeah.
I'm going to say specifically here in this province of Saskatchewan, and you know, guys like you are a credit to that. So shout out to you. But what do you think it's been in this past, let's say, decade that has really led to this boom in talent in baseball? I mentioned like college opportunities, performing at like Team Canada events, like Sask was back-to-back champs a couple of years back. So what do you think that's been attributed to? Like, what would you contribute that to?
I think a lot had to do with that little extent that the Jays had there. I really think that really got baseball people excited.
Yeah.
You know, got some like, hey, there's actually baseball in Canada instead of hockey. And I mean, I'm all for the doing two sport athletes. I mean, I'm all for that. But I think that kind of got it going. And I mean, for Saskatchewan now, when I was younger, I mean, seeing it, how it's developed and all the resources and the people that are giving back, that's the big thing. And especially showing them, you know, younger kids that, you know, there's a lot out there, opportunities.
So many.
Oh, it's crazy.
And I've told, well, me and Chris are in the same boat, but I can't remember who I was talking to. This is a while back, but the amount of kids now from just even here in Regina, but Saskatchewan in general, that go to college. It was like when I was growing up, Mitch McDonald, Jeff's older brother, you know, the McDonald family. Mitch was like the only guy I had heard of that went to college. Kent Morrison, who you might know as well, he went down to California to play some college ball. So like those two guys were like unicorns. Like it was weird almost that went down to play college. And then you saw a couple guys like a year or two older than me who went down and played in different areas, Texas and California and whatever. And then Chris's generation and my generation. And then from there on, it's just been almost, you know, almost every guy on a AAA team now is got an opportunity or a chance. And I've attributed that a lot to like the indoor training facilities that are popping up, RBI being one of them specifically. And just like the growth in Sask baseball and Greg Bronze, who might be watching.
Greg.
You know, Mike Ramage, who might be watching. But I always give those guys I pump their tires a lot because they've done some great work. And so speaking of indoor facilities and RBI being one of them, what's going on right now? Chris is always saying that the next block of training's coming up. So what's going on? Evaluations coming up pretty soon?
Yeah, there's a lot of evaluations that just got done last week. I know it was 1,500 got done, but I mean RBI it's busy, you know, and it's cool. We got as much people as we can with the restrictions and everything, but the environment and how everything's going and people getting excited for baseball. You know, I know the snow here kind of got a little damper and everything, but you know, people are excited and people are excited to actually look forward to something. And I mean, you can just feel it. And then, you know, the vibes when you go into the facility, you feel it talking to people. Hey, how you doing? How's tryouts? How is this? You know, it's really getting exciting. And I know with RBI, like we just started a new block here. So, you know, we got a lot of new faces coming in, getting ready for the season and saying, hey, how was your winter? You know, well, yeah, I played a little bit of hockey, but not really much going on. Yeah. So, but it's getting exciting. It's starting to really, it's kind of breaking point and just kind of saying, hey, you know, something to look forward to. And I think that's a lot of the kids I've talked to and a lot of the other people and coaches are just like, here we go. When's it going to be May? When's no snow?
Yeah.
So that's the cool thing. But everything's going well, and it's exciting to get baseball started.
Like Chris said in the title of your title here tonight, you're the hype man at RBI. And so where did that come from? And like, what would you say your style? What would you say your style of coaching is when you approach these kids? Because they're really like we've worked together there at different camps and stuff, and it's kids who are, you know, 6 all the way to 18. So how do you approach different age groups and the kids that you work with?
Yeah, I think a lot of the thing I built my way of coaching is, you know, I was able to see 4 schools in 4 years, 4 different coaches from different levels. Yeah. And everybody had their own way of doing it. And for me, it's a lot of people forget, you know, you really want to pursue baseball, but the bigger thing is having fun. And I mean, you got to stay focused, but having fun with it. For me, I do when I take over the aux court at RBI. It can be very exciting, and I mean, I hope Ringer and Dylan are taking over right now. But his playlist is pretty low. But besides, my coaching style is just kind of staying back. You know, is the relationship. I really want to. We all care about the people in RBI. You know, all the coaches there for the reasons for SAS baseball, for baseball in general. Yeah. You know, to see kids have the opportunity that we did. And I mean, for me, I like to be serious. If the kid wants to play college baseball, I'm going to teach you a college baseball player. And I'm going to show you how, you know, so it's not a surprise when you get there. You know, it's like Coach Rod, he was on me and tested me mentally, but in a positive, supportive environment. That's the big thing. And that's how I've kind of, you know, you still got to have fun with it, but when it comes to serious moments, you got to be serious. Yeah, and, you know. And you kind of know. It's one of those things that you got to read the room and read how the kids have. Right?
And just to jump in on that, like to build on what you're saying, from experience, and this is like a plug for RBI, but like the kids who go there often, frequently, you get to know them. Like you get to know what they're doing at school. Like you get to know their parents a little bit. You get to know they have an older brother who maybe also comes to RBI or whatever. So you get to know them, and they, you know, there's a trust factor there. And I know just to pump your tires, a lot of kids love you. So just keep doing what you're doing, Brandon, because you're doing something right. So, so if anyone wants to check out RBI, where can they find you? What can they look for?
Well, we are always on Facebook, Instagram. Those are 2 big platforms that we do a lot of the stuff off of. There's a lot of stuff that we do, training videos that we had from last year that we did.
You were the star. You were in all the videos.
That was fun, I'll tell you that. It wasn't real to go to the gym, and I was still getting my workout in a way, but it made me feel like how out of shape I am. But it's okay.
Hey, I'm right with you, bud.
Besides that, no, everything's on Facebook, Instagram. There's RBI website as well. Reach out. I know Chris is a busy man, but he always makes time for everybody, and that's the big thing. Any questions? I know I love hearing from everybody and seeing all the new faces coming in. That's the big thing. So
perfect. Well, cool. Brandon, thanks for coming in. And awesome. Hey, if you're looking for improving your skills in the baseball diamond, you got some kids who need a workout, like Brandon said. Check out RBI baseball, RBI Regina baseball and softball. Check out their website, Facebook, and Instagram. And your slogan at RBI: they rise above the rest.
Oh, yeah, we
Love
rise
it.
above the rest.
Brandon, thanks for coming in.
Awesome.
We'll definitely be doing this again soon.
100%. Thanks.
All right. We'll see you guys after the break. We got some hockey stuff. I already see people are betting on how long we're going to go tonight, so we'll see how we do it, but we'll see you in about 2 minutes. Don't rack your brain trying to source the equipment and materials you need for your business. Rockstar can operate your entire supply chain, from PO creation to expediting your shipments, all from our office. Leverage the buying power of the Rockstar buying group to not only save money and time, but also the headache. From gloves to glue, we can provide it for you. Find out more at rockstar.com.
Comfort has always been something we, as people, strive for. It means that the places we live and work, and that the people we care most about, are able to go about their lives focusing on the things that matter. While the world seems to be facing one challenge after another, our focus at FlameTech has remained the same for more than 20 years. Now more than ever, we need each other to support our local businesses. As an industry leader in combustion services, we are proud to attend to the needs of our communities and support the local economy.
He's covering everything that matters to you. It's the Rod Peterson Show. Tune in live Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to noon to catch the show live and be a part of the action. Take control by commenting live and sharing the show with your friends.
Everyday hoop life.
IKS Live. IKS Live. Western Canada's premier production services company. LED sign rentals. Video production. Event management. Look no further than IKS Live. Visit our website. IKS Live. Always the best seat in the house. IKS Live.
So, I see some people betting on this. So, hey, we are done for the night. No, we got a couple things we got to talk about. A couple things. So, Max, one thing I heard a bit of talk about, because there's actually been some positive news coming out about the next Winter Olympics. And the debates have actually been starting back up already in terms of who people think will be on Team Canada's roster. Now, Chris Johnston, I'll give him a shout out. The Steve Dangle podcast had Chris Johnston on. I'll always give the Steve Dangle podcast a shout out.
Good people. Hey, you know what though, guys? Just in case one of you watching, Jesse, Adam, Steve, design some mock-up T-shirts for you. If you guys want to just, I don't know, toss a little like on there.
Yeah.
We're just trying to help you out. That's all.
So, yeah, on the show, Chris Johnston mentioned that Team Canada might be in for a bit of a shift in terms of the guys you would think would be locks that maybe aren't going to be anymore. And a few of the names that popped up that I was freaking out about. Shea Weber, maybe not going to be on the team. Drew Doughty. They weren't sure if Carey Price would be the starting goalie. Now, the problem with that is that there's not a ton of guys that should be the starting goalie. Carey Price is kind of the guy. There's Jordan Binnington, Catahat. Mackenzie Blackwood's turning some heads right now. But overall, Canada's goaltending is Carey Price.
It's not what it once was, right? That's the thing. When you look back at Salt Lake in 2002, it's not Martin Brodeur and Curtis Joseph and Eddie Belfour. It's not 2010 with Roberto Luongo.
I'm trying to think of guys.
Was Brodeur still there in 2010?
He might have been the third guy, but Marc-Andre Fleury would have been close. And Marc-Andre Fleury could still do it.
Spot.
He could still do it. So, if they go with a Price, Fleury, Hart, I wouldn't be mad, or Binnington. But it's crazy to think that that we haven't had an Olympics that with NHL players, a best on best. Obviously, we had the Olympics in 2018, but that was the non-NHL guys.
Yeah.
So we haven't seen an Olympics in a while, and there's not really that connection to those guys anymore because Hockey Canada is trying to get the next crop going. So with Shea Weber and Drew Doughty in mind, the names that were thrown out were Shea Theodore. Chad Isaac's saying we're live on TikTok right now. I don't know if Chad, are you on your account? You're putting us live? Hello, TikTok.
Much
Go follow me
appreciated.
at Max Ritz 2 and at Producer Clark.
I don't even know how I got that username. It's just there.
You were the second Max Ritz to sign up. That's how it worked.
Yep.
But there was Shea Theodore, Alex Pietrangelo, Aaron Ekblad, Morgan Riley, Thomas Chabot.
We have an embarrassment of riches on D as a country, right? When you're talking about guys
Dougie Hamilton was another name.
Well, Duncan Keith too is a guy that was a mainstay for a couple
for
of
a long
years
time.
that is not going to be there likely. Brent Seabrook had a couple of international turns where he was important to a squad as a seventh defenseman.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the shift, it's a generational shift, right? I'm a massive Shea Weber guy. Obviously, he was a long-time Pred. I could still see one of those two names slotting in as a 6 or 7 defenseman. You still need leadership, and you still need guys that are capable that have been there before in that setting. I still see one of those two guys as the 6th or 7th defenseman. I really do.
I can't see a scenario where Shea Weber and Drew Doughty don't make the team. Like it's next year. It's 2022, so it's not like it's like 2 years, 3 years from now. Drew Doughty's only like 32, I think,
and he's having a hell of a season.
He's playing well. Shea Weber is still dominating when he's healthy, and in a best-on-best scenario where he doesn't have to be the guy, like that's a big piece to your roster. So I don't know. It's an interesting conversation. We can talk Olympics rosters like anytime. And then forwards. This is how. This is Chris Johnston's forward group. He had.
Are you going from memory? This is impressive.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just listened to it today. Mitch Marner, McDavid, and Nathan McKinnon were the first line. Yeah, so think about that. Second
That's
line,
nightmare fuel for a lot of
Second line was the first line in the last couple of years was Marchand, Crosby, and Bergeron.
Oh, that's an underappreciated line in Canada's history.
Yeah, he doesn't give an exact group for the third line, but he said Braden Point, Matthew Barzal were a couple of names that probably would be in there or considered.
Would Mark Stone possibly?
Mark Stone is probably in there. John Tavares is a name that nobody even thinks about anymore, but he's probably still your fourth line center.
Possibly. Yeah.
So I mean, man, it's just
we haven't even talked about Stamkos, Taves.
Well, Taves if he's healthy, hopefully.
He's healthy,
we'll figure that out. But Matt Duchene was on the last roster. I don't think he's in that category anymore.
I don't think he's going to be getting another.
But I mean,
turn.
He was on the last team, so maybe he gets I don't know if he gets a pity invite. I don't know how that works anymore.
He's not getting called, Clark. Stop trying to butter me up with the Nashville Predators. It's not happening.
You know how they like to bring along young guys too? Like maybe does Alexis Lafreniere get an invite? Like who else is in that crop of younger guys?
There's still so many guys that we haven't even touched on yet too that are just capable guys that can earn a spot in selection camp, right?
You know, everyone always says you can make 2 Canadian teams and still be competitive. So.
100%. Well, that's why they split it up in the World Cup of Hockey, right? That was why you had Team North America in there, and that was a mix of obviously the young guns from Canada and the States, but there's a lot of Canadian content on that team.
Tyler Seguin's being mentioned. Taylor Hall's a name we don't mention that I don't know anymore. Like who knows?
It's funny, right?
Darnell Nurse.
Because it's a bit of a recency bias as well, too, right?
It's totally. What have you done lately?
We look at the guys that performed from 2018 to 2020, and those performances aren't really going to be, I guess, counted on in the selection camp.
Like Jamie Benn, for example, one of the best players in the league just a couple years ago, but now I don't know if you'd consider him for a spot.
I don't think
that's a tough call.
I mean, there's a lot of those guys that, remember, again, Ryan Getzlaf was a very big international piece who likely won't be there either. Nope. Corey Perry, like there's just it's a generational shift.
They're definitely moved on.
It's exciting.
I'm
excited to see Connor McDavid represent our country, though. Yes. I think that's going to be one of those things where he steps up in a big moment for Team Canada.
That's one thing that I feel like we've been robbed of with all this turmoil around the Olympics and all that stuff is seeing Connor McDavid on a best scale. You saw the World Cup when he was on that under-23 team. Oh my gosh, that was so fun. But we've been robbed of it, and we need more best on best in hockey.
Yes.
We just need more of
Absolutely. The World Cup of Hockey was fantastic.
It was.
They need to do
underrated.
That somewhere.
I wish they would do that more often. You know, people said, well, there's nothing to play for, but I've watched back those games a few times, and man, they were good.
They were playing good. Like there was something to play for.
Oh, yeah, they were great.
That was incredible. So, yeah, no, we'll see how it all unfolds. I mean, like you said, it's crazy to think that we're less than a year out.
I know. It's
March,
true. It's
and the Olympics
pretty much a year.
February, so yeah, it's gonna be
a couple quick hitters here. Trevor Zegras, his early impression with the Ducks, Max, has been great. It's exactly what we thought he would do coming out of that World Juniors performance. He's been making plays. He assisted on the game winner in overtime last
healthy
night.
Scratched a couple of games ago. Got to mention that. And I think that's just part of the young players' development. I think when you look at Anaheim and you look at the way that they're constructed, they're in that rebuild phase, right? They have a lot of young talent: Maxime Comtois, Max Jones, Troy Terry, and then you've got, again, Trevor Zegras. Like, they've got a lot of young guys that are still trying to develop. And when you look at Zegras, he had a beauty of a play on an OT winner the other night to help set up a victory for Anaheim. I think he's going to be fantastic. I think we're still seeing some growing pains, but he has been good.
Eeli Tolvanen is a guy that you're falling in love with pretty quick with the Nashville Predators. Now, we mentioned it earlier, but we didn't really talk about it. It's one of those TikTok things, like, talk about the Nashville Predators fire sale without talking about the Nashville Predators fire sale. So, I mean, we can all talk about, we talked kind of about Matthias Ekholm, how he's probably out of town, and guys like Duchesne, Johansson, you want them gone, et cetera, et cetera. But in terms of future, you're pretty pumped about Eeli Tolvanen.
I am, but you got to
Is it Eeli?
Ellie. Ellie is how they pronounce it during the broadcast.
Okay.
And he is just, there's a direct correlation between Eeli Tolvanen joining the first unit power play opposite on the half wall of Philip Forsberg and the success of the power play. Nashville has notoriously been, that was the biggest issue in 2018 when they won the President's Trophy. They won the President's Trophy and they had a bottom 5 power play. So imagine if they would have actually had something that was considered average, league average. I won't gush on him for too long. Obviously, it's a young start to his career, but he had a couple of amazing goals on the weekend. And again, I'm going to catch some heat for this. So throwing out the name of Alex Ovechkin's spot. Eeli Tolvanen might be developing a spot on the Nashville Predators power play where if you feed him the puck there, it's going in 8 times out of 10.
I like it.
So I'm very happy with how
Never hurts to have a guy like that. Another quick note here. ESPN has announced, I think, a 7-year deal to take over the American NHL TV rights.
And we still don't have financial figures on that, right?
I haven't seen anything, but
$5.2 billion for the Canadian deal that Rogers has.
Yeah. So it came out 40 minutes before we went on air, so I haven't had a good chance to really get in there. But if you guys have seen anything, make sure you throw a comment in there.
You know what's kind of funny, though? We talk about sports, and we got to talk about the cross, I don't want to say contamination, the cross resemblance of pop culture. And I think I read a tweet earlier today. It was something like, oh, well, with the success of WandaVision, Disney buys the NHL for the next 7 years. So just one 9-episode run of a Marvel show can just buy the NHL's rights for 7 years.
On WandaVision alone, they bought the NHL.
I watched the series. I'm a big Marvel fan, and I loved it. But I just thought that was kind of funny that when you're comparing ESPN and the endless money pit that is Disney, I think they could do some good things for the league.
I would love, and this is as a Disney Plus subscriber, shout out to Disney. Maybe you could throw us a couple promo bucks for sponsoring.
Just give us
here.
Free subscriptions.
Sure.
That's all.
Well, I already have one, but pay for mine would be great.
Yeah.
But if they were streaming games on Disney Plus or something like that,
I'm sure they have plans. I'm sure they got plans.
I
for
hope
something,
so.
Right?
We'll probably find out.
They just got Star on there, so maybe for an extra $6 a month, maybe it's like ESPN works in there. So
we'll see.
Endless possibilities.
We'll probably know more at this time next week. So stay tuned for that. More updates on that. Rich Sutter. Rich Sutter's a great person, but his brother Daryl is now coaching the Flames again, Max. We kind of talked about that. Yeah. One of the poll questions we had on the RP show this week last week, no, it was this week, was who will finish better after their coaching change, the Habs or the Flames?
Habs.
So far, it's looking like the Habs. Because we said it before, we don't think that they should have been as bad as they were. Anyways, they're a good team. They've got a lot of good players and really deep, balanced roster. We talked to Joey Alfieri about that in our preview show, and he mentioned it, how deep they were and how balanced they were, and all the moves they made were for that purpose. So I agree. I think the Habs will finish better. I'm just so curious. We've talked about this 3 or 4 times today. Look at that number that just popped up. Robin Wildy says they're paying $200 million annually for the rights that expire after this year.
So that's not that much.
Less.
That's
than
$1.4 billion over 7 years.
That's less than the Canadian deal.
Like substantial.
I wonder how
less.
exclusive it is. I'm curious. We'll find out some more details and we'll let you know next week.
Yeah.
Because that's interesting. It's 7 years, $200 million
That's like
annually.
a third of what the Canadian deal is.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay.
Producer Alan is asking, what did you guys think of the WandaVision finale? I'm wondering if he's asking us because I didn't watch it. Max,
I have some thoughts.
Max is the nerd,
but
so
we don't have enough time here. I will happily take that mantle of show nerd. If you haven't, I'm not going to spoil it. Watch WandaVision. As far as Marvel is concerned, it's just good content. If you need an escape, go watch some Marvel content for a little while. That's all I'll say.
Shout out to TikTok. I pretty much know everything about WandaVision just through watching TikTok videos. So thank you, TikTok. So that's the
the current NBC deal. My apologies, Robin. Thank you very much.
So Robin, thank you for pointing that out. The current NBC deal is $200 million annually.
Hopefully it's due for a
So you would think
uptick.
like that's like
Just
if you think of the Rogers deal that Sportsnet did with the NHL, it was what, 5.8 billion?
5.2.
5.2 for how long? 10 years?
Yeah, I think it was something.
500 million a year?
20 million a year, yep.
So you're thinking if that's the case for Canadian television, and American is 3 times as big, you'd want to think that it would be 3 times as big, right? Dollars wise?
Are the States only 3 times bigger than us
I'm just thinking teams wise, markets wise.
Okay,
if you think of markets,
gotcha. Yeah, 7.
There's 7 Canadian markets and
so
approximately 24, 23.
Soon to be 25.
American markets. So you would think it'd be about 3 times as big. So, which would be great news for the NHL salary cap.
Yeah.
And teams like the Leafs and almost every team, there's like half the teams right now are up against the salary cap, and they won't be getting any relief on that.
No.
You wouldn't think, at least this year, it's probably a flat cap for a couple of years. But once it gets going, there was projections, Max, that if nothing would have happened with COVID, let's eliminate that it would have been at $100 million by 2023.
Like that's nuts. That's exponential growth.
It was progressing around that rate.
It was just climbing.
Yeah, it was progressing around that rate. It slowed down a little bit, and then COVID hit. So not a good combination. But I mean, hopefully by the time kind of the NHL decides to up the salary again, cap. We could see it by $100 million by maybe 2023, 4 or 5.
Well, I think that's all going to be dictated by, again, like let's look at the speed of which things are opening up, right? We have 3 states that have NHL teams belonging to them opening up fully 100%. So I'm assuming that means 100% capacity means you're allowed to go to sporting events and sell out arenas.
It's coming back.
It's all tied to revenue generation. So when it comes to the league, and if they can finally recoup some of those losses, hopefully even sooner than their projections allowed for.
Yeah.
Like, let's see what happens. But I think that we could hopefully be looking at an increase in the next 2 years for sure.
I think so.
Hopefully.
The Leafs lose to the Jets tonight. Craig Smith is chiming in. Craig Smith, thanks for rubbing it in. I appreciate that. Really love that. Thank you, Craig.
And the Preds lost in overtime, so they made it to overtime.
Well,
the Preds are now 11-14-1.
It's time to blow it up in Nashville.
Hey.
Last note of the night, the NHL draft. It's kind of been announced. It's not like 100% official yet, but it's pretty much been announced.
Stay in July.
Thanks,
Joel
Craig
Henderson.
Smith. You're ruining my brain. When Chris Johnston and Elliot Friedman both tweeted out, it's pretty much truth. They've announced that the NHL draft is going to remain. Now, it's usually in June, Max.
June 20.
So they push it back.
June weekend, yes.
They already pushed it back because of the season. So
when's the Stanley Cup being handed out? Because the regular season goes May.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling the Cup's going to get handed out before the entry draft.
Late July.
Obviously.
It's usually early July. It'll be late July or June, sorry, and then the draft will be in July.
So effectively push everything back a month.
Yeah, so they're not moving the draft. There was talk. I heard some people talk about like pushing it back so it was a double draft year. I just can't. Can't happen. There's too many trades where draft picks are involved.
Picks are already there. Yeah.
That's not happening.
It's a mess that the NHL doesn't have the time nor the want.
I think the thought was like push it back a couple months and just let the scouts adjust after playoffs and take some time to really dive in,
Yeah.
But they're just gonna have to adjust and figure it out. So it just means that the league wants to keep their schedule for next season so that they can have a full regular 82 game season. They want to just get back to normal, which is great. I think it's perfect. We'll see how that affects the timing of the expansion draft for Seattle, which is happening, free agency, what time does that start, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm just glad they want to get back to normal, and I think we all do. So with that being said, have you downloaded the Hoop Life basketball app yet? If you haven't, do it right now.
Because one of these people.
They have
there right now.
We got a little. So okay, last week on the show we had our good buddy Habib popped in, and he teased some big news. Now we got a little extra teaser today because we had a little meeting with those guys and we were talking about it, and they told us what it was. And I'm not going to say because I'm not that person, but it's exciting, especially for basketball in Saskatchewan. So I'm going to say that, but if you got to download the app, so download it now. There's a bunch of free training, or not free, but I think there is some free training tips, some programs, and they even have their virtual overtime training feature where you can do a one-on-one training program with an instructor. So head over there. It's awesome. Squad 10, you get 10% off. Use the promo code SQUAD10 at hooplifebasketball.com. That's it for us. I'm going to just barely eke out the 9 o'clock over-under.
Look at that, hey?
So tomorrow on the Rod Peterson Show, NHL great Ron Duguay's popping in. Now, do you know the name Ron Duguay?
I've heard of the name Ron Duguay. I heard Rod's rant on Ron Duguay and why we should all know who Ron Duguay is. I've heard of Ron Duguay. I know he's a former NHLer that had a successful career.
On and off the ice. We've heard some stories, and I'm pumped to talk to him tomorrow. So Ron Duguay, two-time Emmy winner for NHL analysis. He's been on some TV broadcasts, so we're excited. We're going to talk New York Rangers, maybe a little Alexis Lafreniere, and we're getting a Brier update from CBC curling insider Devin Haru, one of our good buddies.
That's the thing that's going on right
now. The Brier's happening.
How are the Sasky boys doing?
They won tonight.
So good. 3-1?
They're 3-1 or 4-1, I believe.
Dunstone?
Yeah.
Good work, boys.
So next week on the SquadCast, stay tuned. I think we have some ideas, but we don't know for sure. But we're going to have a great time either way, and we are pumped to have you all back with us. From the basement of the bunker, we are signing off. I'm producer Clark, Mad Max over here. Director Jordan, producer Alan are in the back room. Are you going to give us a sound?
Hey,
the most boring sound ever.
Boys are still alive back there.
Friends at Rockstar Supply Chain Solutions, IKS Media, Vigor Lifestyles, Hoop Life Basketball, RBI Baseball, Flame Tech Combustion Services. We'll see you next week. Don't stop, make it pop. Sheldon, blow my speakers up tonight. The Leafs are going to fight until they beat the Jets tonight. TikTok on the clock. Oh yeah, it's probably about time I make one of these. Fade to black. See you later.
Take care, everybody.